All right, welcome to A Friday Reads, the first one of the year, so it's a big one. If you're new, this is where I talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next. I haul any books, which I have a few books to haul this time, and it's just a chatty little update at the end of the week. Gets me excited about my weekend, that sort of thing, and I have finished 3 things I can talk to you about. There were 2 things I finished I can't talk to you guys about. I have a DNF, so it's a big one. Let's get into it, starting with the first book I finished, which was Inferior. This is a very consumable nonfiction, and I listened to the audiobook. And when I picked this up, I was originally preparing for a live show, which did get postponed or canceled. Unsure. When I have more information, I will share. But the new year's been crazy, so we're just going with it. But I picked it up initially being like, I can read a little of this a day. And I read it all in one sitting. That's how consumable it was. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily groundbreaking. For me, it wasn't super anger-inducing, but it was cathartic and engaging in like how I like my science nonfiction to be. It's not very dense. It's just an engaging time. It gives me a good, broad, surface level understanding of the situation, and this one's focusing on how science research has looked into the biological differences between genders and what it has done wrong, what it has seen, kind of where we're at with this messy science, because it's not without its prejudice, but it does also show some differences and things like that. And it was just interesting to see all the things that were assumed, to see things that are still being assumed, seeing what has been shown to be true and what isn't, and things like that. And in general, it's just a very messy field because not only are there biological things that can be different, we don't understand a lot of biology, especially around hormones. Like, even if we are dealing with the simplest case of people who have 2 X chromosomes and people who have an XY chromosome. But there are people who don't even fall into those 2 buckets, right? Like, it's a very complex situation, and I think this book's attempt is to show that science, especially in fields like this, is not without prejudice. It is not one of those things where, like, science is science, which is like, if you are in biology or any of the sciences, you know that science doesn't play nice. Like, it's not simple. We want it to follow rules, but it doesn't. Like, that's why PhDs can take so long, guys. It's because it doesn't play nice. So, but very engaging, completely consumable. I didn't find it too anger-inducing just because, like, I'm pretty numb to a lot of the things that are talked about in here, if that makes sense. But I found it, like, my level of, like, density of science that I like, and that means I don't like it super dense, I guess. Just because I do science doesn't mean in my free time when I'm reading a science nonfiction that I want, like, a super detailed, dense description. Like, this was just, like, really lovely, introductory, surface level approach to this topic. The next thing I finished, I think this was the next thing I finished. Was it? Yes. It was Tress. All right, secret project number 1, Tress. I am going to be talking about this on 1, maybe 2 live shows, so I'm not going to do a review. I don't think the world needs more reviews about this book, especially because this is just a lovely time. I went in knowing nothing because I'm being ridiculous, and I'm knowing very little about each of the secret project books. Like, I didn't even look up the name, and honestly, like, would it have dampened my experience knowing? Probably not, but the fact that I woke up on January 1st, and I found in my inbox Sanderson's version of a fairy tale story. Yes. I was so happy. And it's told through the voice of one of the storytellers in the Cosmere that we meet a lot. I don't know if it's a spoiler to say that it's Hoyd, but it's Hoyd. And he has a very funny, whimsical storytelling style that we've seen in other books. But to have it for a whole book was really fun. I was so annoyed, though, because this would be such a great audiobook. But it's Michael Kramer. And I know people love Michael Kramer, but, like, he can't be everyone in the Cosmere, guys. He can't be everyone. My goodness. It could have been anybody else who could have been Hoyd. But regardless, I did love reading it with my eyeballs. I really felt the Stardust Princess Bride type of fairy tale whimsy on this pretty terrifying planet. I loved the found family elements. Like, this isn't like a favorite book of all time, but it was fun. It was light. It got me into physically reading again. So all those things are wonderful. I really like the planet. I like the Cosmere implications, but as it stands on its own in terms of, like, the genre of fairy tales, I thought it was a great addition to that. Like, I don't know if you like things like Uprooted and stuff. Like, I wouldn't say it's dark fairy tale, but it's cozy. It's got a lot of the tropes we're all used to, but it's definitely for adults. And it also has that part of fairy tales that probably is hit or miss for people, where it's preachy. A fairy tale is, like, sometimes about morals and stuff like that, or about the journey of the character and being very blunt about showing things. But it worked for me. It really landed. Even though I saw many of, I don't even know if they would have been twists. Like, I don't know how much was clearly telegraphed and how much I just picked up because I understand how fairy tales work. But it didn't even matter because I'm like, okay, I know where we're at here, but I'm excited for the reveal when we get there. And there was a lot of cool problem solving going on because, once again, we have a really cool magic system to play with, and I really loved seeing the problem solving. So it's fun. Really a great way to start my year. I cannot wait to get my physical copy. It's going to be stunning. Like, ooh, the art it's just gonna be so pretty. Like, it's just gonna be so beautiful. All right, and then the third thing I finished is The Cabinet. I read this for my local book club, and it's actually striking how many similarities there are between this and Strange Beasts of China. But Strange Beasts of China is like a 4.5 to 5 star experience, and this is like a 3 to 3.5 star experience. Like, but in many ways, I mean, one's Strange Beasts of China is written by a Chinese author, and The Cabinet is written by a Korean author. But they both were written 2006, 2007, and they both have, like, very specific tropes that happen, and they're both meant to be, like, vignettes about strangeness and how it is a commentary on humanity. Although, where I think Strange Beasts of China has its strength is that it's focusing on the humanity and monstrousness of society and of an individual and what makes a monster. Like, it chose, like, a theme to focus on. I don't think The Cabinet knew what theme it wanted to focus on, so it has, like, 7. There's a lot, and it's an idea-focused narrative. You're not driven by the character. At the end, it kind of has a thriller, weird plot. It's definitely dark comedy satire. That's definitely what it has. It has a strong wit to it, which is really impressive with the translation, and the translation localizes it in Korea in a really good way. Like, those are positives for me. But it had a little bit too little structure for me. Like, it has 3 parts, and the parts kind of make sense, but when it's its strongest, it's in its vignettes. And I think it's because this author wrote short stories before this novel. And so I can kind of see that short stories were where they felt most comfortable in making an arc. But then when we have some chapters about our main character, it got a little navel-gazy, philosophical. And sometimes it was in ways that felt cathartic. I'm like, yeah, I needed that conversation on corporations and capitalism and just working for work. Like, that, I felt seen there. But other times I'm like, what is the point of this chapter? We're just talking, how does this connect to the Symptomers? And so I guess, yeah, what is about the Symptomers is this cabinet with stories of a bunch of people who have these little weird mutations. And at first you're just reading about them and learning about the life of this man and how he stumbled into this job of caring for this cabinet. And so at its core, it is about this man and how he stumbles into that position and what its day-to-day life is. But it's just a little aimless for me until it has too much focus. Like, it went from, like, no focus to, like, razor-sharp focus, and it's just weird. It's just a dark comedy. I think it could work really well for some people, but for me, yeah. Also, there was, like, a moment that a lot of people feel very shocked by at the end, but it was kind of spoiled for me. So, but even that, like, I've read a fair bit of books that have done that type of twist before, so, like, I don't even know if I would have been, like, shocked. Like, it still feels like it was, like, kind of led up to, but it didn't feel like it should have happened. I don't know. It was just weird. It's a weird time. And I was expecting it also to be weirder, if that makes sense. Like, it was weird, but not as weird as I thought it would be. Anyways, it wasn't a bad time. The conversation was wonderful, because that was the one thing I knew. Is like, okay, well, I don't really love this book or anything, but I'm not going to have to moderate this conversation at all, because normally sometimes there can be a long conversation, so I have to talk about a thing, and then everyone jumps in. No, pretty much the minute we started talking about this book, everyone just kept talking and sharing the space, and I had to interject a few times to keep the conversation going, but people had lots of thoughts, so it was great for a book club discussion, like, fantastic. So that's partially why it's like a 3.5, because if I hadn't had the book club, I would have DNF'd it. Like, real talk, I was not feeling like I was getting what I wanted from it. So, speaking of DNFs, my unfortunate first DNF of the year is Persuasion. I talked about this in my wrap-up last Friday, about how I got 70 pages. I tried to read 20 to 30 more pages, and this is just too distant for me. And what I mean by that is there was a whole chapter I read with no dialogue, but in theory there were scenes of people interacting with each other and going on hunts and dinners and things. So it was just such a bird's eye view of situations where I wanted to be in on the conversations that everyone was having. It just felt too much like there was time lapses going on, and I was being told what was happening with everyone, but I literally wasn't being allowed to be close to those scenes. And I mean, even though Anne's our main character, I still, like, I know who she is. I understand what she thinks about herself and her place, but I don't really feel like I know her. Like, I'm not getting to be as close to her. And part of that is that's just how older literature chooses to do its character work. It's one of my bigger complaints about Lord of the Rings is like, it's more of a me problem, where that means my imagination has to work harder to give me buy-in to caring. And a lot of times with modern writing, it's just a lot easier to connect to characters because of how things are done these days. So it's just like my brain was not up to the task of bringing what I needed to bring forward to feel immersed in this world, because I truly just felt so distant from it. Kind of felt like when you need glasses and you're squinting a little, like that's how I felt reading this because of its style. So that's that. It's a DNF. I finished volume 1 and I just didn't really care. And that's what I'm trying to do with my DNF, so it's not bad. I just don't care. I'm sorry, Evie. I'm sorry. But you gave Sword of Kaigen 2 stars, so I'm not that sorry. All right, what am I in the middle of? A few things. First, The Unbroken. My mental health has been horrendous, guys. Like, new job, stress, anxiety. Everything's going okay, and so I was able to actually read the first 3 chapters once my brain was there, because like the audiobook is, I don't think that good, so I'm not going to listen to the audiobook, and I like physically reading it. I'm starting to get real grounded. I'm actually like, I remember it's like, oh yeah, it did take me like 3 or 4 chapters to get really settled into Terrain and Luca's perspective, and I've now had a perspective of each of them, and yeah, it's just, it's messy, and it actually pairs really well with the next book I want to talk to you about, because there's a lot of, I think, thematic overlap, even though they focus on different parts of the world. I've been bothering Ryan a lot because, like, I'm just, like, a very dense person sometimes. But when I first read this, I think I knew it was about France and Algeria, but I didn't realize that meant there were a bunch of French names. And so I've been asking Ryan, how do I pronounce this name? How do I pronounce that? He's getting annoyed with me. He is. But that's been kind of fun, like having new ways of pronouncing the names in my head. And I love the messiness of the situation Terrain's put in, where she's really just trying to help her fellow conscripts excel in a system that won't let her. And she's just learning the hard way that they won't. And there's going to be a lot of messiness because of that. And then when we meet Luca, she's so naive and part of the problem in the monarchy and doesn't even realize it, and just it's just really, I think, a solid way of exploring this messiness, truly, at least for me. It's like how I like to explore this, because I feel like a lot of times we have rebellion with a character who has complete buy-in right away, and in this case, our characters surrounding like this rebellion don't, and I think I just like that sort of barrier. But the reason why I say it pairs well with what I've started is I finally have decided that my first nonfiction for my South American project is Open Veins of Latin America, because Jocelyn was mentioning to let me know when we're buddy reading that. I went to my bookstore for my book club. I saw this. I saw it had a foreword by Isabel Allende. I was confused because it has a quote by Hugo Chavez, who is not my favorite historical figure, but who I should probably learn more about. But this is a 1970s nonfiction about South America, and I have a really pretty bookmark for it. Look at that. It has a nice leaf. This was a Christmas present from one of my coworkers, and I love it. But I've read, I don't know, the first 19 pages plus the foreword, and I'm ready. But this is actually much easier to read than I thought it would be. I still can't read a lot in one sitting because he just has a very distinct writing style that I am enjoying. But there's a lot of words to describe something that might not need that many words, but it makes it more poetic. There's definitely like an intentionality to word choice that is pleasant, but also exhausting and dense all at the same time. Right now, the foreword's cool because it's about Isabel Allende and how she found this work and her history with Chile, which ties directly into my experience of reading Long Petal of the Sea last month, so that's fantastic. And then there's the introduction that discusses the fear of the population growth of South America. Because, again, a lot of this, except for the foreword, was written in 1970. So that was really fascinating to see, the political lens of South America. Specifically, this author's from Uruguay. It has been exiled from Uruguay and then got to go back. That was also in the foreword, which was really nice to have from Isabel. And now in this first part, we're in the post-pre-Columbian era. Everyone, all the conquistadors are coming over. Oh, I think the last line I read was just oof, really sad. I mean, not surprising, but still just let's see. The Brazilian anthropologist estimates that more than half the aboriginal population of America, Australia, and Oceania died from the contamination of first contact with the white man. which is like, oof, so much oof. So this is going to be an informative and rage-inducing time, but I'm ready for it, and this is my book for Uruguay, because I didn't have a country for that. Next week, I'm going to have like a TBR where I have a bunch of books from different countries in South America and finishing up my bingo board. So that's a thing. Buddy reading with Jocelyn. So I believe those are all the books I can talk to you guys about that I've started. What do I hope to get to next? These are good questions. I do think I want to start Symbiosis soon. I want a sci-fi in my life. So it's either going to be not Symbiosis, Interference, the sequel. Or I might start The Vila, because I kind of want that audiobook experience potentially, because I don't really have an audiobook right now. Like, I have the audiobook for Open Veins of Latin America, but I want to immersion read that if I use the audiobook. And so in my other read that I'm not telling you guys about, I'm preferring physically reading. So The Vila would be good for that, because I think Interference I'd rather read with my eyeballs, because that's how I read Symbiosis. Unsure. So those are the sci-fis that are like on my radar if I don't just completely go off TBR. And if I do, you'll find out next week. But then I do have this lovely book haul. A lot of these are from friends, actually. So I guess first, the things I bought myself, I already showed you Open Veins of Latin America, which I bought. And then when I was at my book club, I was so happy because I had my gift card. And last time I was there, they had a brand new edition of this book in their used book section. And I was like, oh, I hope it's still there. And Sal and Gabby Break the Universe. Like, it's like a brand spanking new hardback that was like $9. So yes, and I love Carlos Hernandez. I read the first like couple pages just to make sure I would get on with his like middle grade writing style. And I'm like, I'm already in, I'm ready. This might be a thing I pick up sooner rather than later if I really need it. Like, I'm very excited about this, like extremely. Other things I bought for myself, I guess I'll grab them from over here because they aren't in my other stack. But I, of course, keep continuing my leather-bound collection of Sanderson. So I've got the Alloy of Law book and The Shadows of Self. And I'm not going to lie, guys, these might be tactily my favorite of the leather-bounds. They feel, like, to the touch, so nice. And they're stunning. I'm sure there's someone on the internet who has shown better how things look, but look, good mercy. But I'm happy with them. They bring me a lot of joy, especially since the series stuck its landing. But yeah, so those are the things I bought for myself. And I believe the rest of the stack are from friends, primarily Evie, but this first one is from Joshana. It's Half a Lion. This is a book that's been on my TBR since last year. I have the Kindle, but she DNF'd this, and I was like, well, send me the copy. I'd love to have it. So I now have it. The author is from, I think, Cameroon? I think. I'll find out later. Yes, Cameroon. And it's like kind of inspired by, I think Cameroon has a lot of tribes that are near there. So it's inspired by a lot of that. And there's going to be warfare, brother against brother, I think. I don't know, this cover is really cool. I don't know if you can tell because of the glare, but I'm excited. It still has Joshana's tabs, which I'm keeping in just to see why she might have tabbed them. I'm not good at annotating when I read, so. And the rest are from Evie because she was doing an unhaul of her books. So this is for once not Evie buying me books, but they're very nice. So the first three I'm so excited about. And they're all Akwakia Messy. We have Freshwater, which I've been wanting to read for so long. I don't know what this is about, really. Like, I know it's magical realism. There's a girl in Nigeria. I think she might have multiple personalities. That might be related to gods. I don't know. I know there's trigger warnings and content warnings. I haven't really looked them up because for me, even knowing trigger warnings or content warnings don't prepare me. Not many things trigger me, and even if I know the thing that triggers me is in it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't help me. And I do like just experiencing a book as it's given to me, in case you were wondering. Because I know some people can be really nice and want to be like, just a heads up, and like, I respect that. I don't need the heads up, because I know that this is going to be a traumatic time. I don't know a lot about this one, but this is The Death of Vivek Oji, which I think might also be another one that deals with heavy topics. What does it mean for a family to lose a child they never really knew? Yeah, that sounds heavy. And this is a newer one. I don't know a lot about it, but I really liked Pet. And when Evie was showing us her stack, I was just like, give me all the Akwakia Messy. Especially because this one was on it, and it's like, You Made a Feel of Death with Your Beauty, which is a romance novel that came out last year that I've been itching for. I think there's a lot of mess. There might be a love triangle. It's about recovering from grief, even though it's been like a couple years, but it's like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm really hoping this hits the spot for me. And in the last one, I already have a friend who I'm going to give this to if I don't love it. And I already told Jess I won't tell her if I don't love it. But I have Babel by R.F. Kuang. And I mean, it's gorgeous. Like, this book is a stunning production. I'm sure you've seen it on other people's channels, but like, this is a stunning production of a book. I'm just not convinced that it won't bother me. But I have a friend who is also in academia. She just graduated recently as well, who did really like this book. So after I read it, because presumably for some challenge, I will need to read this at some point, I might pass it off to her if I don't absolutely love it. But it could surprise me, and it could be like a new favorite of all time. But I am still such a jaded grad student. Like, even though I'm a postdoc now, I'm still so jaded. And like, I just feel like R.F. Kuang's not jaded in the way that I'm jaded. And the way that she's not jaded comes through in her character work. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of toxic working too hard in her characters. And I don't think it's actually seen necessarily on page as toxic. Like, there are other things that are called out, like, you know, the racism and the imperialism and colonialism and stuff like that. Like, all that true. That's a problem in academia. But it was also really interesting because I know on Twitter someone was mentioning, you know, we have all this silver in this book, and it's not really brought up where the silver's coming from, which kind of has more to relate to, like, the open veins of Latin America. I don't know if that really matters, but it was just something I was seeing on Twitter. It was interesting. I'm curious about this book. I'm still waiting to read it until I'm in the mood, just because I'm scared of it. I'm truly scared of this book because, yeah, I'm also bad at dark academia. The only dark academia book I like is Vita Nostra. So, like, and that's because that book is about how you shouldn't work so hard, because if you do, weird things happen. At least that's what I took away from it. All right, so a longer Friday reads than normal, or maybe normal length. I don't know. I feel like I've been chatty lately since I only do 2 videos a week. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. I bought a new board game that I get to play this weekend. It's Endless Winter. I'm so excited. It was on a lot of people's favorites of the year list, and I read the rulebook today, and like, oh, I'm excited. I'm pretty pumped about that. Still playing Horizon Zero Dawn, or else, although there are these really big things called Thunderjaws, and I just found a corrupted one in a quest line, and I've not even beaten a normal one yet because I avoid them because they're big and I'm small. Like, Aloy's like this tall, and the it's big, and I know what you're supposed to do. I've watched walkthroughs. I get the strat, but I'm bad at things. And Ryan and I were discussing. It's like, well, I could lower the difficulty if I need to. I haven't tried it enough times to do that yet because I'm just on normal. But he's like, I don't know what that really affects. Like, I bet it just hits me for less, and like I hit it for more, or it has less health or something. He's like, yeah, I wonder if the AI would be smart. It's like, no, the AI's already kind of dumb. Like, he only responds to if he sees me or if I shoot it. I'm just not very good. Like, there are strategic things I could be doing to be better, but my aim is bad. So, this is my struggle. But I am still having fun. I am persevering. It is less stressful than my real life, which is a change of pace. And yeah, and our show right now that I'm loving and I need to watch more of. Maybe I'll do that after I finish filming this. But The Bear, so good. So good. If you want underdog found family with like, there are stakes, but it's like low, we want this diner to survive stakes. And the lead actor just got a Golden Globe, and I think he deserves it. Like, he's great. I really like him. So that's been our show lately that I've been really enjoying. All right, so this is the end of the video, and if you want to leave an emoji, I don't know, leave a stack of books. There's just a lot of books in this video. I don't normally do haul videos. Maybe I should have for this, but I don't. I like doing them in this because it's just more chill and casual. Let me know what you've been reading, doing, playing, watching if you want, and otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!